What I'd like to share with you today is, well, from a student's perspective, on how learning to play can be one of the ways to prepare ourselves for life that's about to happen ahead of us. And I'd like to do that by telling you a few stories that have happened with a few friends of mine that kind of depict what happens when every student, or dare I say, big kid, is given the chance to play again. Yes, this means playing with big toys. Exciting, yes. Let me explain. So, in 7th grade, my friend Ellis and I decided to send phones into near space with weather balloons. Yes, you are looking at a complete nerd, but it'd been done before. We were most excited about being the youngest guys to send phones into near space. So, instead of launching just once, we launched 6 times. The first time, there simply was no helium in the helium bottle. So that's like having a lihapiirakka without the liha part of it. It's not a lihapiirakka anymore. And the second time we launched, so it was a complete success, but we launched the phones. So probably it's debatable that it failed completely. Luckily, these phones were our friends' phones. So remember this rule. Whenever you're doing a science experiment, don't use your own phones, use your friends' phones. So this is a story about losing friends. No, the third time, the balloon overfilled and it popped. So basically at this point, it's probably not a surprise for you if I tell you that our sponsors and media partners had completely given up on us. I mean, we were kids, we couldn't be counted on. But joke's on them, because on the 4th try, we launched completely successfully. The phones were all back and it was a complete success. And there was even news on it online. Yeah. So basically, if you zoom out of the whole picture, the launch after that took only 2 months to plan with a completely different crew. And the launch after that took only 2 days. So the point here is that, or the key takeaway is that when we're given the chance to play, failure becomes almost an essential part of the whole process, instead of something that we have to forcefully remember in our heads that failing is good, failing is good. In fact, well, it's probably a hard way to do it, but it's indeed quite an effective way. More on this balloon story in a bit. Second story is about working with others. Oh yes, by the way, this is the view from up there. It's quite nice. The second story is about working with others. For Kalle, Edvin, and Roope, that sounds like a math exercise, actually. But anyway, with their combined age of 45 or something, they were all 15, you work it out yourself, making a full-length feature film had always been a dream of theirs. In fact, in the first year of high school, they decided to come together and assemble a team of student, cast, and crew to start storylining, scripting, other things to do with movie production, all in the course of 1 year. And of course, with their limited student budget, they couldn't do all and pay for everything themselves, so they had to ask for camera companies to sponsor the high-end cameras, and even an arts institute who would sponsor them or lend them the microphones and tripods. In the end, the result was indeed a full-length feature film. It was a drama, action, and espionage film named The Final Act. And they told me to say it like that, so. The Final Act. This cost only 1,000 euros to make. And half of that was for the rent at the grand red carpet premiere venue, a professional movie theater. And the other half was for the popcorn at that venue. So the key takeaway from this project is that whenever you're given to plan a budget, spend half of your money on the popcorn and the other half on something else. But jokes aside, this was their version of play. And to play this big, they had to learn to work with others in so many different ways. It was, well, for example, this sort of collaboration meant that not only was everyone there motivated and inspired by everyone else that was working around them, and these are students, by the way, but also they could figure out how their skills, whether it was acting, directing, or filming, complemented each other's. And even as importantly, the contacts and the mistakes that were made, the contacts made with other companies and organizations, not only made their project possible under 1,000 euros, but made other projects possible too. For example, the 2 successive launches of the balloon project, which used the same cameras from the same company. So, my third project is about discovering your passion. Joshua, a friend of mine, since his childhood was one of those kids who loved drawing cars and playing with cars, as probably most people in this room can relate to. But what makes him different from most of us is that as he grew up, as he grew bigger, so did the cars that he drew and his ambitions for them, and thus his success. Right now, at the age of 16, he is working on a concept car project with a major car company. And this is all I can show you now, but there's a lot, much more to it. For Joshua, he was lucky because he discovered his passion early on. That meant that everything to do with car designing was play for him, including all the failing and the hard work you'd normally associate with doing such a thing like sketching hours a day. It's play for him. Back to the balloon project, for example, after 3 years and 3 successful launches, I was pretty sure that I definitely did not want to become a meteorologist. And I think that is something that most of us can relate to regarding the discovery of our passions, which is that it's not necessarily right in front of your face from the very beginning of your birth. But it is, I would argue, equally important for us to have an opportunity to, through playing, test and figure out what sort of career might lie ahead of us. Although playing might not necessarily mean that you'll find that element of yours, but at least you'll be able to edge closer and closer to that profession with whatever title, or even, most importantly, a profession without a title coined for it yet. So, these 3 stories, what are they about and what do they mean? Well, failure, collaboration, and discovering your passions are just a few of the challenges that we're bound to face in real working life. Yet they're also the ones that we struggle with a lot. So 1 + 1 equals playing allows us to not only easily practice these important skills, but also discover ourselves deeper in a meaningful and easy way. And on the side, you get to discover how the real world around you, which you're about to step into, works. With this in mind, my friends and I still had a few friends at this point, I haven't lost that many phones yet. My friends and I, in the first year of high school, decided it was time to bring together a couple of students to create an environment where we could bring play back into everyone else's lives, everyone's everyday lives. A playground for bigger kids, if you will. So it's a course where each potential passion in the form of a project idea is pursued. It's mentored by other students, it's funded and connected to the right partners. It's a place where we try to inspire and show others that it's finally safe to play again. Well, hopefully these projects are just a few of the examples that prove that point. But of course, the ideas don't have to be big in the very beginning. In fact, they don't have to make any money. None of these made money. And they don't have to be expensive either. Actually, they don't even have to be good. That's what I'm saying. So, we believe that there's always a creative and unique way that we can help you explore something new for you. And so perhaps to end with a grand and, well, idealistic vision, since all visions are idealistic, is that for everyone on their course of becoming an adult, playing would allow their education to be no longer exclusively influenced under their teachers and maybe their parents, but also their passions, their friends, their colleagues, and real-world organizations that exist in the real world. Not saying your parents don't exist in the real world, but so that the whole of society would be there to prepare you for the life you're about to spend with them. Thank you very much.